Demand analysis. Introduction. You have already studied the concept of utility in the previous chapter. Utility is the basis of demand. Utility may generate a desire or a need to have a particular commodity, but utility on its own cannot generate demand for the commodity. This chapter is an effort to analyze the concept of demand. Demand analysis is concerned with consumer behavior. Meaning of demand. In ordinary language, demand means a desire. Desire means an urge to have something. In economics, demand means a desire which is backed by willingness and ability to pay. For example, if a person has the desire to purchase a television set but does not have the adequate purchasing power, then it will be simply a desire and not a demand. Thus, demand is an effective desire. All desires are not demand. In short, demand is equal to desire plus willingness to purchase plus ability to pay. Definition of demand. According to Benham, the demand for anything at a given price is the amount of it, which will be bought per unit of time at that price. Thus, following are the features of demand. First, demand is a relative concept. Second, demand is essentially expressed with reference to time and price. Demand schedule. Demand schedule is a tabular representation of the functional relationship between price and quantity demanded for a particular commodity. A demand schedule may be either individual demand schedule or market demand schedule. Individual demand schedule. Individual demand is the quantity of a commodity demanded by a consumer at a given price during a given period of time. Individual demand schedule is a tabular representation showing different quantities of commodities that an individual consumer is prepared to buy at various prices over a given period of time. This can be explained with the help of the following individual demand schedule. Individual demand schedule, Table 3.1. Table 3.1 shows different quantities of commodity X purchased by an individual consumer at various prices. It can be observed that less quantity of commodity is demanded at rising prices and more quantity of commodity is demanded at falling prices. It indicates an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Individual demand curve. Individual demand curve is a graphical representation of the individual demand schedule. Figure 3.1 represents an individual demand curve which is based on Table 3.1. Individual demand curve. In Figure 3.1, x-axis represents quantity demanded and y-axis represents the price of the commodity. The demand curve DD slopes downward from left to right, indicating an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Market demand schedule. Market demand is total demand for a commodity for all the consumers at a given price during a given period of time. Market demand schedule is a tabular representation showing different quantities of commodity which all consumers are prepared to buy at various prices over a given period of time. It is obtained by a horizontal summation of the demand of all consumers at various prices. It also indicates an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. This can be explained with the help of following market demand schedule. Market demand schedule, Table 3.2. Table 3.2 shows different quantities of commodity X purchased by different consumers A, B, C at various prices. It can be observed that less quantity of commodity is demanded at rising prices and more quantity of commodity is demanded at falling prices. Thus, there is an inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded. Market demand curve. Graphically, the market demand curve is a horizontal summation of individual demand curves. It is based on the market demand schedule. Figure 3.3 represents the market demand curve. Market demand curve. In figure 3.3, x-axis represents market demand and y-axis represents the price of the commodity. The market demand curve DD slopes downward from left to right, indicating an inverse relationship between price and market demanded. Reasons justifying downward sloping demand curve are as follows. First, law of diminishing marginal utility. We have seen that marginal utility goes on diminishing with an increase in the stock of a commodity and vice versa. Therefore, a consumer tends to buy more when price falls and vice versa. This implies that demand curve is downward sloping. Second, income effect. In the case of normal goods, when price falls, purchasing power, which is real income of a consumer, increases, which enables him to buy more of that commodity. This is known as income effect. Third, substitution effect. In case of substitute goods, when the price of a commodity rises, the consumer tends to buy more of its substitute and less of that commodity whose price has increased. This is known as substitution effect. Fourth, multi-purpose uses. When a commodity can be used for satisfying several needs, its demand will rise with a fall in its price and falls with a rise in its price. Fifth, new consumers. When the price of a commodity falls, a new consumer class appears who can now afford the commodity. Thus, total demand for commodity increases with fall in price.